So ladies, today we're going to have a little bit of girl time, and we're going to talk about three main things: how God created our hearts and desires. We're also going to talk about why we need to guard our heart and mind, and we're also going to look at how we actually do this. So first, how did God create our desires? How did He actually design our hearts? Well, He made us very unique as women. We naturally desire a husband. We desire love from a man. We want to be affirmed. We want to be called beautiful. We want to be loved. I mean, these are just part of how God designed our heart, and that's a good thing. So if you want a boyfriend or you want to get married someday, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But what we also learn is that our hearts are deceitful above all else. And it's very hard, when we're in high school, when we're looking to date someone, when we want to have affirmation, when we want love, because our hearts are deceitful, we start looking for our heart's meat, our heart's desires to be fulfilled with things that are outside of God's context, because God designed those heart desires to be met in Him and in marriage. Now, there are a couple of different scenarios that I often hear from a lot of the girls that I work with. The first one is that you end up in a cyber relationship. You start talking online one night, you find someone that you connect with, you don't necessarily know how old they are, but they tell you all the things that you want to hear, that they're beautiful, that you're sexy, they want to call you, so they start calling you late at night. And gradually that conversation becomes more and more sexual and more intimate. And before you know it, all of a sudden, you're worried about where that relationship is going, but you're afraid of losing him because you want that love, because you want that affirmation. Or secondly, you start crossing boundaries with a guy that you're interested in. You go to a party, he leads you into a bedroom, and before you know it, you say, okay, we're just gonna lay down next to each other, we're not gonna touch. But you know what happens here? You start worrying about what's gonna happen if you turn him down, if you say no to what he wants you to do. And so you go further and further and cross boundaries that you never intended to cross. Or you become so focused on your body and the affirmation that you get from guys when you start losing weight or working out that it becomes an obsession, and you start abusing your body because of that. All of these things are examples of when we start looking for love, affirmation, in places that aren't as God designed. And God designed us for a relationship, but He designed us for a relationship with Him and also a relationship with our husbands. God cares about you so much that He cares not just about whether or not you're a virgin or not. He cares about what you think about, what you see, what you do, and He wants to preserve you for His plan for marriage. He wants to preserve you for His plan for holiness and for purity. And to do that, we need to do three things. So one of the ways that we do this is through guarding our media diet. When we, go online and see internet pornography, when we watch reality TV, or when we listen to, music lyrics that might be sexual, or when we read, fantasy romance novels, we're going to be prone to masturbation. We're going to be prone to struggling with our boyfriends. We're going to be prone to, saying words that, might or might not necessarily honor the Lord. So we really need to keep our eyes, our heart, and our mind focused on God's truth, not focused on what's going on in the world. Because if you do that, if you start watching more content, if you start watching all those movies, you're going to base your standard on some, Real Housewife rather than what's on God's standard. So think through the content that you're actually taking in. Also, get an accountability partner. Find someone that you can meet weekly with, that you can talk about these very intimate issues of what you're watching, what you're doing, what lines you're crossing. Because as women, hey, we struggle. A lot of people think that women don't struggle with pornography, that they don't struggle with masturbation, that they don't struggle because of what they see on TV or online, but we do. We're created beings, and we're designed to be aroused by the stuff we see, by the words that we hear, and so you have to have someone in your life who's going to talk about that with you, who's going to challenge you, so you're not crossing the line with your boyfriend, so you're not crossing the line, when you go online or when you're watching TV. So make it a priority to talk with that person regularly. And third, we need to just ask God for help, because God says that He'll give us His wisdom if we just ask for it. That's what James 1 tells us. So ask Him for His wisdom, ask Him for His guidance, because God wants to instill what His truth is into your life, that you're beautiful, that you're fearfully made, that you're a wonderful creation, and that He has a plan to prosper you and not to harm you. He has a plan to protect you and preserve your purity, and it far exceeds anything that you're going through right now, anything that you're struggling with right now. He wants to cleanse you and prepare you for His plan. So now you're going to talk with your youth leaders about some of the things that you're going through, and I hope that you're willing to have an open and vulnerable heart, that you're willing to share what you're struggling with as a woman, And don't be ashamed of that. Because God can fulfill your needs, He can satisfy your desires, and chances are if you're struggling, you're just looking to meet those natural God-given desires in some unhealthy places, and that's a place that all of us have been.